The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast do not necessarily reflect or represent the views and opinions of WBGR Network.
Okay, thanks for coming to the show today. Got a hot topic for you today. Let me start by giving you a little intro. I always talk about some of the issues that we face in the office. Of course, we're CPAs. We deal with all kinds of clients in all walks of life. But unfortunately, there are life-changing events that happen in one's life that we always experience, and we always feel like we're going through it with them. And today I'm going to talk about divorce and the financial effects of divorce. We've handled a bunch of clients when it comes to divorces. We've seen a lot of patterns. We've seen a lot of things, and some of the things I want to say is they're kind of controversial. Just want to let you know, I'm not trying to start up trouble, whatever. I'm just trying to shed some light on something that we see every day. And the person that's going through it might not necessarily see it as they're going through it, but I think it'd be useful. And if you don't agree, just consider what I'm saying. Just consider what I'm saying here. But anyway, it's going to be a little different than you usually hear when you talk about money. When you talk about people who they might be divorce experts, counselors, or whatever. But what I try to do is I try to bring in the financial impact of whatever we're dealing with. So let's just get started, and don't throw too many eggs at me. So divorce and finances. Why this topic? I kind of talked about it. We see certain things that happen. We see certain patterns, and we really want to address these patterns from a more of a financial, spiritual perspective. As I mentioned before, divorce, marriage, children, all that kind of stuff, they have economic impact. Almost everything that you do has some type of economic impact. Me being a CPA, I'm always in tune to what are the financial costs, what are the financial benefits with just about everything you do, and that's just the way I look at the world. You see numbers so much. You see, you help people to get through problems. You help people to solve certain things. You represent certain people in certain things, and you start to look at things, and you start to see the numerical impact. But by doing that, you take the emotion out of things, and that's what's important. We have to be able to make decisions without really getting into ego, without getting into emotion. Let's just look at some of the facts here. So, sound judgment over emotion. That's what I just talked about. I want to talk a little bit about the change in roles. Once you're married, especially when you have children. I'm really gearing this topic towards people that are divorced or going through a divorce or contemplating divorce. Hopefully you'll see this before you even start the divorce process. But there are roles that you have to change, and particularly, I'm a man. I'm going to speak from a man's perspective. I can never speak from a woman's perspective. I'm never going to try to do that. I hear so many people try to do that, but that's not something I do. I can only tell you something that I have experienced, certain things that I've seen, and that's it. So, like I said before, all things have a economic impact here. So you'll see as I kind of go into this a little bit deeper. I should have turned my phone off. Sorry about that. Just give me a sec here. They ring at the worst times. Anyway, let me turn this ringer off here. Sorry about that. So let me get into it. So prior experiences, I've noticed certain contentious divorces, and it always ends up in one thing. No matter how contentious it is, it always ends up in loss in wealth. Now, let me just say this up front. When you have a situation where both people have a good understanding, they both want to do the best things for the children, you find less of an economic impact. But what I have noticed, and I've seen a lot of these things, just trust me on this, the more contentious the divorce is, the worse the economic impact. And I'm going to show you this. And the worst effect, obviously, that it has on the children. Most people they already know that, but there's an economic compact, and there's economic consequences when you start to do certain things. So, and lastly, the effect on the mental well-being. Nobody's going to be in their right frame of mind even when you're leading up to the divorce, the years that it might take to leading up to the divorce, while you're in the divorce, and after the divorce. And the most important thing, I think, is really after everything is all done. So I'll get into that too. All right. So now here's the thing. We see this a lot with business owners. And I don't know why, but you have a guy or a lady that most time we see the man, to be honest with you. That they've grown this business to quite a degree, and they want to actually enter into a divorce. They want to leave their spouses sometime along the line. I'm not saying that you have to stay into a marriage. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is weigh the consequences and weigh the economic consequences. By the way, of course, we're CPAs, and if you got any questions about what I'm saying, just give us a call, 301-474-1040. So what we find is a lot of times that business owners are not necessarily organized and they haven't done adequate asset protection before they actually contemplate divorces. Most of the times they get emotional and they say, hey, I want out, this is what I'm going to do. And a lot of times they come to us, being CPAs, because we know so much about their financial lives, we know about their children, we know we met their wife, we met family members, and they come to us pretty much early on. A lot of times they come to us before they even contact a lawyer. You'd be surprised. Sometimes, they'll come to us years before they even want to contemplate the divorce. But the ones I'm talking about now are the ones who just jump up and say, okay, I want out, and they have a business. They have some type of assets that they've acquired over the years. So they don't necessarily do the great asset protection. The timing is off. They haven't done anything as far as planning, and I'll get to some of those things in a few minutes here. All right. So when I say the timing, also included in then the timing is, look, you got to ask yourself the question. And I always ask the person who's sitting across from me, right? I ask them every time, look, did you do everything that you possibly could have done? Did you do everything that you possibly could have done? I'll listen to the story. I'll listen to why they want to get a divorce, why he wants to get a divorce, or she. And I always ask that question, did you really do everything that you possibly can? Because if you did not do everything that you possibly can, I don't even think you need to even consider it. I think you need to do everything that you possibly can. From a more spiritual perspective, God does not look well on divorce. I'm not saying he says never get a divorce. I'm not saying that, but it's never looked at well in the eyesight of God. But you have a life and you have to balance that. But the question is, did you do everything that you possibly could? So I find that a lot of decisions are really driven by ego, emotion, and it's just not sound reasoning. So you met somebody else and you like that person better. That's not sound reasoning, especially when you got children involved. That's not sound reasoning. Sound reasoning is, let me see what I can do to improve our situation. And if you have done everything that you possibly could have done, you got to look at yourself maturely now. You can't look at yourself and say, oh, that person's fault. Oh, it's this person's fault. I just had a conversation before I got to the studio, and we were just talking about this, and the question came up, well, look, I didn't know that this person was like this. I didn't know that this person had this problem when I actually got married. Look, the bottom line is this. When you get married to that person, there's a lot of things you're not going to know about that person, right? But the thing is this. That problem becomes your problem. It becomes both of your problems. His problem becomes her problem, and her problem becomes your problem. They become problems together. And if you have the wherewithal to say, look, we both are going to solve whatever problems that there are, and you actually do that, then I can say that maybe you did do the best that you can. But until you look at that problem and stop saying it's that person's problem, no, it's both of your problems because you married this person. But anyway, let me move on. I don't want to get into that kind of stuff. I want to get to the finances. So, this is what we find with with people who are business owners. You lose your business, right? There's a chance that you could lose your business. I'm not going to say it happens in all cases, but when I see the bigger the ego, the bigger the contention, I can see right now the business is going to suffer, right? So you're going to either lose the business or you're going to lose a portion of the business. You got to know this going in if it's contentious, right? So if you're going to lose that business drive because it's more contentious it is, the more it's going to weigh on your mind, the more it's going to affect your day-to-day decision making. And it will have an effect. Do not think that you are super ego, you are super macho or whatever, and you're going to make the same decisions that you would make in a normal situation, because you will not. I don't care who you are, you will not. I've been through this, trust me. The loss of employees, because you're going to start treating your employees a certain way, you're going to start relating to them a certain way. Look, you will suffer loss. It is going to happen. Loss of homes, loss of cars, retirement, investments. If cut the emotion, just leave the emotion at the door, right? You have to put a list together of what you can possibly lose. And you got to be honest with yourself as a business owner, because you will lose certain things. Now, you might gain it all back later on. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that your life is over, but at least weigh what you're going to lose by going through this situation. All right, so if you're an employee, of course, a loss of energy, because this stuff just constantly weighs on you and it eats you up 24/7. And let me tell you something, you can look all good on the outside, but on the inside, something is going on, right? You can be quick-tempered, loss of promotion, loss of job, loss of all the other above items. So let's keep on going. So business owners, I'm harping on business owners right now because I've been dealing with a couple of business situations where we're representing certain parties in the divorce, and what we noticed right from the get-go, sloppy books are going to be one way that you are going to, lose in the court setting, because if your books are sloppy, the other attorney is going to be, your books are going to become public record. They're going to bring in your books, and when they see how sloppy your books is, if they are sloppy, that's an angle that the opposing attorney is going to use on you. It happens over and over and over. So you say you make, for example, $100,000, but you really make $250,000, but your books are so sloppy. They're not organized. They're not done according to GAAP over the last couple of years. Then you are opening up the door for the opposing attorney to attack. And what's going to happen is you may end up paying for the spouse's attorney fees. You may pay out more court fees. And you may actually end up with a higher settlement than you initially anticipate. So sloppy books is not a way to do it. So what you're going to have to do is, if you're going to go through this thing, if you're really going to go through this divorce, then you're going to have to make sure you have 2-3 years of just clean financials. Get them things done. Get them done by a professional. Don't think that you can do it all yourself. Get it done by a professional. Get a salary. Get a W-2. And say, look, this is what I make. Don't play the game thinking that you can hide this and hide that, because hiding assets, hiding income is not asset protection. Let me say it again. Hiding assets, hiding income is not asset protection. It's just a way for the opposing attorney to actually find what you have, right? Once they find what you have, once you've been seen as in court as being untrustworthy, then the everything starts to stack up against you. And then if you're a person of ego, you're going to start fighting. You're going to start saying the wrong things. You're going to start doing the wrong things, and you're going to make a hole even deeper for yourself. So I'm telling you, I've seen this over and over and over, and this is why I got to talk about it. A lot of people are not going to like it, but hey, this is what we're talking about today. All right? So the thing is, you got to make your income easily determined, right? It's not a thing where, okay, well, I have some money in this business and I got some money in that business. That business is not mine. I don't know why you're counting that. Trust me, I've seen it. So what all this leads to is greater attorney fees and a greater accounting fees. So what you're going to be sitting there doing is just watching your wealth just eat away, and especially if you're one of these big ego type guys, who say, look, I'm not going to give her nothing, she don't deserve it, blah, 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 I'm going to hide this, I'm going to hide that. A good attorney is going to find it. So, don't play that game. Plan a couple years ahead of time, have everything nice and clean, and try to be as honest as you can. But there are asset protection strategies, but hiding is not one of them, because once it's found, your credibility goes down the tube. So, and that's one thing. Everything is about perception. Everything is about credibility. So once you lose on that front, you're going to keep losing in the divorce proceedings. So if you can't prove your income and just a couple of nice quick documents, then you're probably not ready. The timing is not right for you. And don't fool yourself and say, hey, look, I got to get out. I want to get out now. Yeah, you're thinking emotionally. That's what you're doing. But you're not thinking about the economic impact that's going to happen. So let's move on. So I already mentioned that hiding assets and income is not asset protection. Do not play the game, and I've seen this before. I've seen this on several occasions. I only want to count them now, of people thinking they got businesses, and because they built these businesses and they built the business up from ground one, that they're so smart now. No one can tell them what to do. No one could actually represent them but themselves. I've never seen it. I've never seen a business owner, a guy who's got serious money, go into court and represent himself and come out winning. It ain't going to happen. It's just not going to happen. But you'd be surprised. I see it all the time. All right. So once you try to represent yourself and you're a business owner, then once they start picking in the books, finding that this wasn't true, that wasn't true, okay, now you completely lost credibility. And whatever you say, everybody's going to be looking at with scrutiny. So it's not a good strategy as a business owner to represent yourself. Now, I've seen situations where in a non-contentious divorce where people have represented themselves, they didn't need lawyers and that sort of thing. Okay, I get that, right? But if you have a lot to lose, why put your whole empire in jeopardy like this? Why not go hire the best lawyers, the best accountants, have good books, like I'm just telling you now, and do the right thing? All right, so always give the impression of full disclosure, because once the opposing side or the judge believes that you're not giving the full picture, then what they're going to do is they're going to order you to actually have audits done. They're going to order that certain documents be subpoenaed. They're going to have everything that you have on Front Street, and they're going to look at everything with greater and greater scrutiny. So always have the impression, or give the impression, that you are giving full disclosure. Once you lose this battle, you keep losing. Anyway, so I got an example here. This is I call the 80K problem. So this is the guy who's in a pretty much contentious relationship, a contentious divorce. The legal fees, he can actually pay about 50 grand in legal fees, because what happens is, remember what I said, you already started to the slope of losing credibility, so you end up paying for your spouse's attorney fees. So your spouse might have been the one that really files divorce against you. But because you're not credible when it comes to your books and records, now and you ticked off the judge, now there's a possibility that if your spouse asks, hey, look, I want him to pay my attorney fees because this is a waste of time here, then that judge might just award that claim for that other person, and you're paying the daggone attorney fees for the other spouse. Look, it happens. I see it all the time. So again, once you lose that slope, that credibility, you're paying accountants, you're paying other costs, other fees. Not to mention, you're going to have another separate place to stay. You got to buy furnishings, you buy new cars, whatever. But it's the bottom line is there's a loss of wealth, and I see it all the time. It's not like that after the divorce that the unit becomes more solvent. It's not a thing where they become more wealthier. The thing is, you become less wealthier under the situation, because you're giving your money away to lawyers, accountants, eating more, playing more, doing whatever you got to do. You're spending money, right? So it's actually a situation where you're eroding wealth. and it's good to start looking at the numbers to see exactly what the impact is going to be. So I'm going to take a quick break. We'll run some commercials. We'll come back and we'll talk about the effect it's going to have on the children from a financial standpoint and an emotional standpoint. So give us a minute and we'll be right back.
State and local government exercise very important functions in the United States. They are responsible for creating state legislation which can become state law. They plan and pay for roads, run public schools, parks and libraries, provide water and utilities, and organize law enforcement, elections, and much more. As citizens, local government is more easily obtainable and are the means in which we communicate to the federal government. This is why it is important that we vote in more than just primary presidential elections. Midterm and local elections are just as, if not more, important for our communities and its efficiency. Resistance is local. Criminal justice reform is local. Gentrification is local. And the right to vote is a privilege that once was not granted to all citizens because of their gender, race, or ethnicity. So today, we are all afforded this right, and we should vote at every given opportunity, simply because we can. For more information on voting in poll areas, please visit the link below.
Okay, we're back. All right, so we're going to talk about the effect of the economic effect and the emotional effect that it has on children. We're all aware of the emotional effect that it has on children. I've seen people, who really who would buy into that and really understand the emotional impact. And there are some people say, "Oh, my children are good." That ain't the case either. It will have some type of effect, whether it's a major effect or a moderate effect. Is maybe that might be a little different, but it will have some effect emotionally. But as far as the financial effect, you're going to have to list out. Okay, now there's a possibility you may be maintaining two households, depending on the discrepancy in the income. What I can do on future broadcasts is I can actually bring out certain spreadsheets that will let you know, okay, here's a discrepancy and here's what the expected amount of the settlements are going to be based on certain legal jurisdictions. I'll probably do that sometime in the future. Have done some of that kind of work as well. But the bottom line is you may have to maintain two houses, child support. But my point is now, instead of actually maintaining one house, your wealth is being split, where you might have to maintain two houses if there is an alimony or child support situation involved. Now, and the other thing that really becomes an option here is if police involved, protective orders are involved, court cases, violence, or whatever, that type of thing becomes involved, then the costs go up, because now you're fighting criminal stuff, you're fighting to stay in your house or keep your house or whatever. But the situation gets a little worse when protective orders are involved, and it happens. People come to my office all the time. Whether the protective order is warranted or not, I'm not getting into that. But sometimes, certainly, some of these things don't even rise to the point of a protective order. But if they do, then there's financial repercussions because of that. There's a more emotional repercussions because of it, and the more emotional the person gets over that, the likelihood of poor decision making, more violence, more changes in the the person's character, the way that they're acting towards other people. These things come into play. If you're going through this kind of stuff and you're going through traffic and someone yells at you, you're going to treat that situation a little bit different than if nothing out of the ordinary was happening in your life and someone just curses you out in the traffic. You're going to treat those situations completely different. But it's the additional things that start to happen in your life. That guy in traffic, he yells at you, you get out of the car, both of you get out of the car, you start fighting, and one of you gets hurt or whatever, you go to jail. you lose, some pay, or you might do something that's really tragic and really hurt a person, and you're really in a financial situation then. So these things got to be taken where you look at it from, writing down exactly what this is going to cost you. Don't get outside of those parameters. Know that it's going to be an emotional event in your life, and try to control those emotions. I'll get into that a little bit later. All right, so again, here's some of the economic. Here's some of the economic impact that it's going to cause on the children. Has a little static in the voice over here. Like, for example, there's less money as far as the children's growth, because you got two households. The both spouses start dating. The money starts split in different ways. Priorities start get kind of shifted. So there's less money that you can actually concentrate on the children's growth and development. Now the big thing is, now that you got two houses and custody is involved, you're not going to have consistent, environments or consistent values always being, demonstrated to the children. So, one household might have one set of values, the other household might have another set of values, a whole different economic situation. So those have effects on the children as well, both emotionally and economically. And of course, I mentioned before, the inconsistent environments. So these things do have an impact, and they have a financial impact on the children, as far as how the children later on might even approach marriage, how they approach relationships, how they approach spending habits, because now you're going to find that your spending habits start to change. If you're in a situation where you depended on the other spouse, you might not have the money to actually commit to your children or commit to yourself. The person on the other side who has a lot of money, he does strange things, or she does strange things with her money. Their spending patterns change. You have to be aware of these things. They always come back to some type of economic behavior. Now, I'm surprised that a lot of psychiatrists don't really get into the monetary changes, but from an accounting perspective, CPA perspective, you see these changes. You see lifestyle changes. You see spending changes, and they do have a tremendous effect. All right, so then you have the other parent, right? You have the other parent that he or she overspends in the process of divorce, and after divorce, he overspends on the children to compensate for the lost time that they're spending with the children, the emotional effects that their children are going through. It might be control. You might be spending just to control the loyalty of the child, or getting back at the other spouse, or just a plain old just winning affection. So you have two extremes. You have a situation where the children might be impoverished, and you might be having a situation where now the child is in a situation where the parent feels like they got to overspend to compensate for whatever situation that they had with the spouse. So I see both. So it has to be some type of balance there, and don't lose sight of your job as a parent is really to gear these children to make them good people, and not necessarily to spoil them and lavish them with expensive gifts because you can, and because you're trying to make up for some loss that you had with a spouse. That's not what a parenting is all about. So you have to be aware of those things. So here's an example too. This is a person, that really is a contentious relationship. As you see here, the cost could get over, easily $80K, depending on, what they're going to do after the divorce, how contentious the divorce is, the attorney fees, the accounting fees, if they were in a situation where there was domestic violence or whatever, defending yourself from a legal perspective. All these come into play, and all these are really driven by emotion and ego. So the best thing to do is try to live as peaceful as possible. Try to keep this thing on a peaceful level regardless of the circumstances. Now, the place to live and the loss of wealth, that could be unlimited. It depends on how you really come out of this thing and what your mindset is, and are you going to be an emotional creature because of this? You can't help to really have some emotion over this, but those emotion drives spending habits. So again, it's a transfer of wealth, right? So it's basically transferring from a solid family to transferring your money over into the legal network or others, right? So you might have houses involved, and you got to sell all the houses. You got to divest yourself of the investments, retirement plans, or whatever. But there is a transfer from wealth, and you'll see this happen over and over again in certain communities, in our communities, where these families are broken up. They live in a nice house, nice cars, or whatever. One person does something wrong, the other person does something wrong, and next thing you know, they're filing for divorce. And it's basically just breaking up your wealth and distributing those wealth in the hands of other people. That's what it's all about, and you have to be aware of that. That's exactly what's happening. So the question is, do you really want to throw it all away? Do you really want to just try to make things work regardless of how dark things get? I was telling that same friend that when you get married, you got one person who's dealing with some problems, so it's like that person is in the dark with a flashlight by themselves. Well, when you get married, that becomes your problem. And if two people have their flashlight, you're going to find that beast, and you're going to conquer that beast if two people are willing to overcome whatever problems that they are. So look financially before you perceive, and ask yourself, can you recover with just minimal damages? That's going to be an assessment where you sit down and you write things down. You write down what you could stand to lose. You write down how to really protect what you have. And again, there are certain asset protection strategies that you can actually deploy, but hiding assets is not one. So what will it cost us as a unit? All right, so example 3, again, there's certain lifestyle changes that I just added on here. There's certain lifestyle changes after the marriage that you're going to have to worry about. Place to live, look at it in terms of the monthly costs, new furnishings. You get a new place to live, you're gonna have to get new furnishings. So all this stuff's add up, and it really takes away from the collective family wealth. Retirement, investments, I kind of mentioned this earlier. So the last thing I'm going to get to, and this is the most controversial thing, I think the men are going to be kind of mad at me after this, but here goes. So there's a change of roles, of course. You were married before. You're not going to be married before afterwards, and so your role, especially as I'm speaking from a man's perspective, I can't speak from a woman's perspective, but I would like to see my brothers actually change the role just a little bit here, and the way that they handle money. As far as the men, and I can only speak from the men, and the women can take note of this too. You got to do whatever it takes to keep the peace, regardless to what. Post divorce, I'm speaking from the man's perspective now. Now, this is a little different than what you actually hear. You are responsible as the man. You have to be responsible for her happiness after the divorce. Yeah, I said it. You have to be responsible for that, because if you're not responsible for that, and I'm speaking if you have children, right? If you don't have children, you go about your happy ways. Good, you can end the story, right? But if you have children, then you are responsible for her happiness, even after the marriage, because it's going to find its way to the children, and that's the end goal that you're trying to protect. It's not your house. It's not how flashy clothes. It's not your car that you're trying to protect, but you're trying to protect the well-being of your children. But you, as the man, you have to be responsible for her happiness afterwards. It's a lot for men to take, but you have to, because it will have an effect on your children. If she's not happy, your children are not going to be happy. Your children are not going to excel in the way that you always hope and pray for them to excel, regardless of what you do. So you're going to have to be responsible for what happens afterwards. You have to keep the peace. You have to do everything in your power to make sure that she is okay. Make sure that she is happy. I know the guys are not going to like me on this one. So basically, stop inflicting pain. It's going to find a way to your children. Inflicting pain it's going to make poor decisions, and it's going to mean financial loss for you and everybody else. So the pain will make her less financially and emotionally stable, because she's going to be making bad decisions, right? Which is going to really affect the children. You're going to be making bad decisions that really affect the children. But the bottom line is, it always has some effect here. So as a man, I'm just asking our brothers to make sure, I don't care how evil she is, I don't care how evil you think she is, or whatever, or what she's doing, you have to maintain the peace. You have to find a way to make sure that she's happy, or else it's going to find its way into your children. I know a lot of you are not going to agree with this. But anyway, let's end this right here. We can go into this some other time, a little bit deeper. But I always say, when people come into my office and they start talking, what happened and whatever, I'm always thinking, somewhere at some time somebody has left God out. That's the bottom line. Somewhere you left God out. When you get married, you have these vows, and you're not making the vows necessarily to each other. You're making the vow to God. So when you divorce, you're actually breaking that vow, and you have to understand, that's exactly what you're doing. You're breaking the vow. I'm not saying that you're evil. I'm not saying that we're evil. I'm just saying that we're breaking the vow, and somehow, God got left out of the equation. Now, I'm going to leave with one of my favorite verses in the Bible, Ecclesiastes, and it says, 10:9, it says, "A feast is made for laughter, and wine makes merry, but money answers all things." So, I say this to say that when you're married, it's a collective financial unit. Keep the money in the family as much as you can, and really think about what you're doing before you make that step when it comes to divorce. I hope this has helped some people. I see this all the time, and I'm just calling it like I see it. Anyway, join us again. If you have any questions, just give us a call at 301-474-1040. If you need representation or whatever in a divorce, or you're thinking about divorce or whatever, just give us a call, 301-474-1040, or you can go to our website, tdecpa.com. Until next time, stay blessed. See you next week.